Hi, everybody. It's the Themes to Be Seen podcast. I'm Matt Klaus.
I'm Tara Kostic.
Yeah, you introduced yourself this time.
I introduce myself every episode, so you
Except
need to
the
hush
first
it.
one.
Well, that was the first, and I was shy, and it was a hard time for me, but now I'm past that.
We apologize for the delay between pieces of this episode, but
It's been a busy summer.
it's been a hard summer, yeah.
Yeah.
Lots going on.
Mm-hmm.
We had a medical emergency with Elvis.
Well, I think that had happened before the first part of this episode as well.
Oh yeah, because we were going to record right that day.
Mm-hmm.
Part B of the Us episode, directed by Jordan Peele. We're going to start to get into the heavy stuff. Why are you laughing?
This is like, I almost forgot what movie we were doing because it's been so long.
We're still mid coffee right now too.
Mm-hmm.
Directed by Jordan Peele. We're getting into the good stuff now. Stick with us. Hi, everybody. Terry just made a really funny noise during our podcast.
Not as funny as Elvis snoring right now, though. He's just passed out beneath the table.
I wonder if the mics are going to pick up the snoring. If you hear the snoring, let us know, because that makes the show that much better.
There have been a few other sounds as well.
Yeah, you might hear those, too. Those get pretty loud.
Okay, where did we leave off?
I don't even remember. Addie freaking out. She lost Jason.
Yeah.
He'd wandered away on the beach. Santa Cruz Beach.
He had gone off by himself to find a bathroom, and he saw the homeless man in the trench coat just standing on the beach with his arms outstretched, and one of his hands was bloody, and that's where we left off.
Okay.
And then we had a ton of summertime madness, and we haven't recorded in about a month. And
wasn't that a Lana Del Rey song?
Summertime sadness?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I mean, there's been a bit of that since we haven't been able to record.
It's been a bummer. It's been probably 100 degrees in our studio every day.
And then our work schedules have been just crazy, and then there's just been a lot of
we have other
social events and stuff like that.
We have other projects we're also working on, big deals.
Yeah.
So were we actually where she sees the guy?
She is frantically looking for him, and then she finds him and goes and scoops him up, and then the family decides to go home.
Okay.
So they're at home, and Gabe is talking about how his friend Josh is always one-upping him.
He's always trying to keep up with him. He's complaining that Josh just got this insane new car.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a Lexus or something, a Rover. I think it's a Rover.
I don't remember, but as they're talking, Adelaide is closing the shades on all the windows. It's like she feels uneasy. She knows that something bad is
coming off a little paranoid.
Coming that way.
Yeah.
So
something evil this way comes. It's a different movie.
So she says goodnight to Zora and then goes to Jason's room, and they're sitting on his bed facing one another, and she's like, masks off, and they're just talking, and she's like, stick with me and I'll keep you safe, okay? And yeah, this goes back to like the whole spider scene, how a mother is protective of their own.
Yes. And the stick with me and I'll keep you safe really gives away that she knows what's happening.
And Jason points to the clock, and the time is 11:11.
Yes.
The nightmare is about to begin, and Adelaide is just acting like she knows something
The 11:11
is about to happen.
If we didn't explain, if you're starting on part B, first off, go back and listen to part A. What you're doing doesn't make any sense. Secondly, if you haven't heard, the 11:11 being a numerical representation of something being opposite and separated, but the same. Similar but mirrored. Winston Duke said in an interview after the shooting of the film that their last day of shooting ended at exactly 11:11, and it really freaked everybody in the cast out. Yeah, I believe he said that on Fallon or Seth Meyer.
So then Adelaide finds the drawing in Jason's room that he made, the man on the beach with the bloody hands, and she's asking, "Who is this?" And he's like, "It's just a guy." I don't remember exactly what he says. So then we cut to Adelaide and Gabe in their room, and Adelaide is just staring out the window.
Gabe is doing the most to try to get some in right now. He's like the way he's laying, and he's in a sweatshirt and boxers, and he's really trying to be sexy, and he's just getting no play. And it's really until he sees that she is in distress.
And she's saying that she wants to leave, and then she says, "It feels like there's just this black cloud hanging over me, and I don't feel like myself." And Gabe is like, "I think you look like yourself." And so she turns and just stares at him.
Which every line of dialogue in the whole film is so poignant, and in this, after you watched it 2 or 3 times, in this particular conversation between the two of them, you realize how every sentence applies to another part of the film. It's excellent writing.
So we get this shot where it's like the full scene. It's the full shot of the room, and we see their full bodies. Well, he's just laying in bed, but you notice that in her movements, even the way she just turns slightly and stands, she's moving her feet in like ballet stances.
Yes.
Like she's moving like a dancer.
Very gracefully.
Yeah.
Which if you know anything about ballet, if you are a dancer, we encourage you to comment and tell us what these are called, what they may be from, or if they mean anything, because then what we want to do on some of our episodes, if we get some good comments, is come back and do recap episodes of things people have said that we may not have known, so people can point us in the right direction and we can do some more research. And that would be a really cool thing to have in a recap episode, is what those ballet stances and movements mean.
Like an end of season kind of recap thing. I really liked this shot of Adelaide staring at her reflection in the window, because we see the reflection, but it's like her face is completely darkened, and it's just a creepy shot. Like, we as an audience know something bad is about to happen, and then this is where we find out what happened to her as a child.
Yes.
And we're finding out as Gabe does.
And the literal, and when I say literal, I mean in writing, irony is that all of this happens in a hall of mirrors. So the idea that you're seeing something that's you but not you the whole time, that's the crux of what Jordan thought was scary about the film in the first place.
So she's staring back at her reflection. It's like she's facing it because she knows she's gonna have to face it pretty shortly. Like, she's just had this feeling this girl is coming back for her. And as the audience, we don't know exactly what it is. We don't really know what happened, but we're kind of in the same position as Gabe, because he's about to find out.
And another testament to Jordan Peele's somebody eventually is going to listen to these episodes and be like, this guy is on Jordan Peele's nuts. You are right.
Even the episodes where we're not talking about a Jordan Peele movie.
I'm talking about Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
A testament to his writing. There's no inkling. In a lot of films, you'll get scenes like this, and the other character will be like, "What's wrong?" Or like you'll see them start to like get into the story of it. The Gabe character here is completely clueless. He has no idea what's going on. He thinks his wife is being completely irrational. It's written how a real life husband. Sometimes male partners in long-term relationships look at their female partners and go, "You're being kind of crazy." And that's kind of how he wrote Gabe in this scene.
I mean, sometimes that happens within months of a relationship too, but, you know.
We've been together for...
So, yeah, she starts telling the story of what happened, and she says, I went to the boardwalk with my parents, I wandered off, I don't know why, I just did. And that line itself, you're going to find out, is pretty telling later on. I don't know why, I just did.
And this is all also her in the House of Mirrors up until, well, that's inappropriate. Up until she runs into the alternate her. Is all shot in blue, which means she is just being an innocent little girl. She is just being herself. She's comfortable. She doesn't know anything scary is happening. So all of this of young Addie in the Hall of Mirrors is just herself.
I ended up in that Hall of Mirrors. There was another girl in there. She looked like me, exactly like me. She was real. And then we get a cut to her reflection in the window again, and she's saying this was real, or she was real, over and over. And then this is where we cut to the funhouse scene, and we see Adelaide's quote-unquote reflection turning to face her, and this little girl has one of the creepiest smiles I've ever seen on film. Like, it startled me in the theater the first time we saw
it. It kind of hurt to see. It brought about, and this is another testament to his love of real horror, it brought about when you would see Vincent Price smile. When you would see Vincent Price smile sinisterly, you felt it. And it's the same feeling you get the first time you see Vincent Price smile. It's that same like taken abackness, like that. It makes you very uncomfortable because you know smiles are supposed to be a happy thing, but
this is a little girl
and this
too.
is right. This is probably an 8-year-old girl.
So then she says, "My whole life I've felt like she's still coming for me," and then this is where she starts talking about like signs and coincidences, and she's like, "You know how sometimes things look up, light up, I can't even read, or line up, sorry, I couldn't even read my own handwriting." You know how sometimes things line up, you know, like coincidences. And so she tells Gabe that she feels like lately more and more coincidences have been happening, and she's been seeing
and that makes
the
her
signs
feel like this other girl is closer.
Yeah. And especially now that they're, you know, at the summer house and they're by the beach.
Gabe, being a rational man in a relationship, tries to talk her down, and he tells her, you know, it was a long time ago. Don't worry about it. This is something in your past, and I know it bothers you, but it can't hurt you anymore. It's gone. Which, you know, we're wrong a lot.
I have this whole paragraph written here because then I started thinking more about the backstory between Adelaide and her mom, because her mom left her dad in charge of watching her that night when she was a little girl, and she wandered off, and But from what we know, the family has still been going to the beach house, so it makes you wonder, like, did her mom just completely, like, take over from, like, the dad? Because we don't hear her speak of her dad at all. We see, like, a picture of her mom at the beginning with her and Zora, and we just hear mention of, grandma. We don't hear anything about the granddad, so did he leave the picture and then...
Did she take him out of the picture?
Yeah, so they were still going to the beach house. Like, did her mom make her feel safe returning there year after year? And then...
Or was it something she insisted on?
Yeah, we don't know. We just know her mom died the summer before, and this is their first time back there since. And
this
so
is my opportunity to say, hey, Jordan, if you happen to hear this, fill this in for us. Inquiring minds need to know.
Mm-hmm. And this goes back to Adelaide telling Jason to stick with me and I'll keep you safe. And maybe she felt that that safety with her own mom, but now her mom is no longer there, and she's feeling like this little girl is getting closer and closer to returning.
This spot especially is where we need to celebrate Lupita Nyong'o's acting.
Mm-hmm.
She is beautiful and horrifying at the same time. She really brings emotions out of the audience. Seeing this in theaters, this scene made me well up a little bit, because you really feel how scared this character is. She is horrified.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed what you can tell she put so much into this as a person.
Mm-hmm.
That it shows.
And I don't want to talk about it until the end, but if you watch the special features on the DVD they do have footage of her remaining in character as Red, even when they weren't shooting, and that is some creepy stuff.
I believe the quote from Jordan is, every time she walked on set as Red, you felt everything just ice over.
Mm-hmm.
I
mean, I'm not surprised. She's an Oscar-winning actress. The first time I ever saw her was in a theater watching 12 Years a Slave, and she broke my heart in that movie.
I actually didn't see 12 Years a Slave for 3 or 4 years until after it came out.
Oh, wow.
And I had heard about her, because that was a year of upsets, because that was actually the same year that the gentleman from Captain Phillips won. Oh no, that was a year after that the gentleman from Captain Phillips won for Best Supporting Actor.
He didn't win. He was nominated.
Oh, he was nominated, but still, it was like an upset thing where these no-name people.
I was upset because Tom Hanks wasn't nominated, because his acting in like the last 10 minutes of that movie are so good.
It's pretty good. If you haven't seen Captain Phillips,
but
you probably know it as a meme.
No, I remember that year of the Oscars because Jennifer Lawrence had already won an Oscar, and at that point she was still, like the golden girl of Hollywood, and she was nominated for, what was that other movie? Not Silver Linings Playbook. She won for that, but that other all-star movie with like Bradley Cooper and, I think it was
American Hustle?
Yeah,
yeah. See, I actually
so
like
she
American
was
Hustle.
like...
I like American Hustle a lot.
Oh, God.
Christian Bale is something to be celebrated in that film.
So, yeah, I'm not a Jennifer Lawrence fan, and everyone was like, oh, she's gonna win her second Oscar, and I was like, no,
Adams.
this girl in 12 Years a Slave needs to win, not Jennifer Lawrence, and then she did win, and I was so happy.
she deserved it. But now she's an Oscar tour de force, because just recently, Black Panther, oh man. Told you all I was going to cry in the intro episode for this. Black Panther cleaned up. What did they win? 5 out of the 8?
I don't remember.
I think they went 5 out of the 8 they won that they were nominated for, and every single one. You, me, and Maris and my mom were sitting there, Maris is my little sister. Every time Black Panther won, just tears.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Like I couldn't hold it together. And so that it won Best Ensemble, which actually counts as another one for Lupita. Lupita and Winston Duke.
Mm-hmm.
So technically two Oscar winners in this film.
Have you seen the trailer for Little Monsters?
I asked you that, and you said no.
I haven't yet, but I really like the poster for it. But yeah,
she's
I haven't
awesome.
seen
She actually plays a Brit in the trailer.
Uh-huh.
So like, in most of the films we see, well, she has a Southern accent in 12 Years a Slave. She has a more African influenced accent in Black Panther. And she actually plays a Brit in Little Monsters. And then her next movie after that, she's going to be playing Trevor Noah's mom in the film. Oh, I forget what it.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It's something to the effect of mistake of a child, or because his birth was illegal at the time in South Africa. He was born during the apartheid, and interracial relations were illegal at the time. And it's about his mom having him and doing everything she could to get to America. And Lupita Nyong'o is going to be playing Trevor Noah's mother. So she's going to be playing another, only this time she's going to be playing South African, which sounds almost Dutch. She can do anything. Mm-hmm. She's a treasure.
So, yeah, she's talking about all the coincidences lining up, and she is just visibly shaken, and Gabe is like, well, why did you keep it in for so long? And he makes a bad joke, and she's just staring at him.
No, he doesn't make a bad joke. He makes a joke that implies he could beat up his wife. So he said, like, I'm pretty sure I could kick your ass if it came to it.
Yeah.
And she just looks at him and he goes, oh, and like you can tell on his face, he realizes what he just said was very wrong.
Like, I'm just trying to lighten the mood, and then the lights go out, and he's like, we lost power, perfect timing.
Right. Jason, a legit jump scare here. Mm-hmm. Not a James Wan jump scare where every scare is but Jason pops up out of nowhere here, and you get a good jump scare where they don't know he's in the room.
And he's wearing the mask on his head, and he's just like, there's a family in our driveway.
Which, I would put that line said by a little kid right up there with "they're here."
Well,
because
it's similar also to Signs, when the little girl comes in and she's like, there's a monster on the roof.
There's a monster, there's a monster on the barn.
Yeah.
And that's like little kids saying scary one-liners. It's a good beat. It's a good beat because that's the moment in horror movies like this where you know that's when it's about to turn ugly. Mm-hmm. In Signs that you had a couple like flash of whoa before that. Mm-hmm. And in Poltergeist you knew some things were happening, but until these kids have said these things, the movie doesn't turn up to 11. And I think it's another testament to just his knowledge of how horror films should work.
So we cut to a shot of 4 people in the driveway, and they're holding hands. And it's clearly a family. You see the mom and dad and a brother and sister. So Adelaide starts calling the police, and Gabe wants to go outside. Is he holding a baseball bat?
Not the first time. Not the first time.
Okay.
He tries to be rational. Mm-hmm. And he's like, can I help you? We just lost power. Did you lose power? Like, he's trying to, like, communicate, hey, what's going on? Do you need help? This family just stands there in a very familiar pose, which they're staying with this family as of now. If you spoiler, like, do we have to say spoilers anymore?
No.
It's really early still.
If you're listening at this point, then I think we have already spoiled a lot,
Everything.
so
Everything, basically.
yeah.
But they're standing in the Hands Across America pose just in the driveway. And then he doesn't get a reaction, so he goes back in, and he has this whole muttering monologue where he says he takes his family on vacation and they all lose their minds. All dads probably have that thought at least once. And then he stands like a dad while he's confronting the family outside. Like he has this like outside of his hands on his hips, and he's like
puffing out his chest.
Yeah, well, before he goes out and when he's standing there trying to be rational, he has this very awkward dad stance, like a fanny pack would fit in the stance. When he goes back in and he gets the baseball bat,
yeah, he's
more
freaked out at this point. When he goes out and he's talking to them and they're not budging, and then he's like, "Let's call the cops," and Adelaide's like, "I did. They're 14 minutes away." So yeah, he goes back out with a baseball bat.
He puts on this front. You want to act crazy? We can act crazy. Like he's trying to be this different part of himself that he's definitely not. And I think this is writing again. This is writing again because Jordan is trying to say this is not who Gabe is at all, but he feels like because of his skin tone, if he puts this display on, it's gonna make a difference, and it definitely doesn't, and that's what scares Gabe more.
So then we hear the character that we'll soon find out is named Red. She makes this clicking sound, and the family disperses.
They skitter.
So Red just stays in place.
But the sound is important. You remember the sound? Because the clicking sound, we found out from Lupita that the word she thought of to give her an idea of what Red moved like was cockroach. So this noise that she makes before the family disperses is a very cockroach-like clicking. And they all go, and then they all scatter like roaches in light, and it is an excellent analogy. The way Abraham is the one that walks towards the door.
She's staying in place, and Abraham is the one who is walking towards Gabe.
And when you see Winston Duke doing this walk, he is a giant. He is a large man. He is lumbering, and it's very reminiscent of a early Jason actor. A mid Jason actor. When Jason became like this strong supernatural entity, he walked with this very straightforward, lumbering gait, and it's intimidating because he's a freight train. You're not stopping him with a door or whatever.
Are you speaking of Kane Hodder?
Probably more CJ.
Oh, okay.
Because the way CJ just walked straight forward, and you never really saw him turn his head. You never saw him turn his body. It was always very straightforward motion, where you knew no matter what you put in front of him, he was just going to walk through it.
That makes sense because there is a scene later in the movie where we definitely saw the Jason similarity.
Between Abraham and Jason? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He locks the door, but the tethered are the tethered, and they know you. Yes, they are you, so they just walk over and pick up the hide key. And he's like, hide key? You didn't, get that earlier, or you didn't tell me that was out there. Like, he could have brought that in the entire time. Abraham just unlocks the door with the key. It's not a sense of where he kicks the door down. This isn't force. It's a very finessed thing. And the door doesn't move after it's open because Gabe and Abraham are basically the same person.
The other family that has suddenly come into the picture, they're wearing all red. So let me see here. So the family inside the house, they're just staying together, and then everything is dark, and then there's a yellow painting on the wall, and I can't remember what exactly it is, but I have written depicting feminine strength. I think it's like a painting of like a mother and child, and the mother is.
It's the mother and the daughter,
Mhm.
and they both have their arms out.
Yeah.
And the daughter is looking up at the mother. Yes.
But the scene is dark, and then you just have this
bright
contrast
yellow.
of a yellow painting, he did that a lot in Get Out too.
Yes, he does a really good job in this film of focus points, like we were talking about the red apple earlier.
Focal points.
Yes.
Yeah. We hear Red whistling the Itsy Bitsy Spider.
We see Ombre climbing a tree supernaturally fast.
Yeah, and Pluto, which is
Jason,
he moves around on all fours
like a little animal, which we've heard. I believe earlier in the film we heard one of the parents, or Jason or Kitty, or Josh or Kitty, refer to their children as those little animals. So.
We see a shadow of Red approaching the house, and with the silhouette we see the scissors in hand.
It's the first time we see the scissors, or the second time we see the scissors.
The camera circles around the room and shows the invasion, and the families come face to face with one another inside the house in the living room.
Yes.
Red enters the living room first. The first thing she approaches, and she sees a painting on the fireplace, and she's kind of just looking at it, and I think maybe she reaches out with her hand. It's like she remembers it.
Yes. I have that when she's entering the room, she enters the room with almost an anti-grace. Like, it's graceful, but it's very awkward and stiff.
And she's, clutching the scissors with both hands.
It's a hard motion to explain with words, because it's stiff and robotic, and it looks uncomfortable, but she looks very light on her feet.
Like she's still incorporating those dancer moves.
Yes, like she's still dancing.
So Red instructs the family to sit. Pluto crawls behind them and scares them into their seats, and he starts a fire in the fireplace, and the families are perfectly lined up with one another, like
it's a perfect
Gabe
mirror.
is facing Abraham and so forth.
This is the first time we actually get to see the tethered face up, and this is where Jordan Peele wanted to show people that he wanted them to look like almost vampires. He said that he wanted to purposefully depict a lack of sun and sunken features.
Like
no eyebrows, just looking like partly human but not fully. And I feel like it's a great look.
So Abraham has a grown out beard. Ombre, am I saying that right?
Ombre, yeah.
Ombre. Her hair is down and
slicked
back.
Perfectly back.
Pluto is wearing a white mask, and Red's hair is short and curly.
It's a natural fro. It's an unkempt, like unpicked natural fro.
And this is the line we get in the trailer also with Jason saying, "It's us."
Yeah. Gabe. This is also where we get Gabe saying, "Who are you people?" And not gonna cry. This is where Red.
A little bit after, because first she's gonna give her monologue.
Oh, you have the monologue down, don't you? Okay.
So this really startled me. I wasn't expecting this, but Red starts talking, and her voice is very slow and raspy, and it takes you by surprise. I did not expect her to sound like this.
And when she starts talking, you can tell it's difficult. Like, as the film goes on, her speech gets easier, and I think it is depicting the character remembering how to.
Yes, because she hasn't been able to communicate in this way for so long.
Right.
And I believe she actually studied speech patterns of women who were in traumatizing situations.
Choked and stroke
Mhm.
victims. Yes.
Yep. So she says, this is actually like kind of poetic
It's
as
beautiful.
well. Once upon a time, there was a girl, and the girl had a shadow. The two were connected, tethered together. When the girl ate, her food was given to her warm and tasty. But when the shadow was hungry, she had to eat rabbit, raw and bloody. On Christmas, the girl received wonderful toys, soft and cushy. But the shadow's toys were so sharp and cold, they'd slice through her fingers when she tried to play with them. And then she goes on talking about how when Adelaide met Gabe, Red met Abraham, but it didn't matter whether Red loved Abraham or not. She pretty much just had to mimic Adelaide no matter what. So, she was tethered to Adelaide, and when Umbre was born laughing. Jason, oh no, Umbre was born laughing. She is described as having been born a monster. Um, the shadow hated the girl so much for so long because she was just in so much pain and everything was so cold because when Jason was born, Pluto was born at the same time, but Pluto had to be cut from her body.
Which implies that Addie had a C-section for Jason.
Yeah.
But that's not how it would work for the tethered. It would be a archaic just cutting her open.
And we see that when Gabe pushes up his glasses, Abraham rubs his nose. And this is where he's like, "Who are you people?"
And we're Americans.
Yeah, Red is like, "We're Americans." So this is where you could also see the title of us being like U.S., like United States. There's that duality of rich and poor living together in the same country.
This is the highlight of the metaphor of the film. Being that these are poor, disenfranchised people who don't have access to the things that the more fortunate people have, but they want the same thing, so they get things that are less than and actually hurt them in the long run. It's very telling of modern United States financial culture, social class, and I feel like that's what he was trying to say with the whole film, that eventually something's going to have to change because there are these affluent people who are just like the have-nots, and it's not working anymore. People are getting hurt.
So Red tells Adelaide to tether herself to the table, and she hands Pluto a set of handcuffs, and he gives them over to Adelaide.
Which actually, she speaks the way she communicates with Pluto in these like barking, grunting, like animal noises. It makes you wonder how any of that came about. Prequel movie.
Yeah, so she's communicating. Red communicates with her family with unintelligible sounds and hand movements. And Gabe is dragged out of the house by Abraham, and the entire family is freaking out. And Red tells Zora to run so Umbre can chase her. And of course, earlier in the film, it was mentioned that Zora excels at track.
Which would mean that Umbre didn't have a choice. So Umbre would be a physical freak while practicing. She would be an anomaly of physicality because all she would be doing was running.
So she gives her a head start, and she's just cracking her knuckles because she knows she's gonna catch up with her.
Stretching. She's taking it very lightly.
And she knows where she's going.
I mean, you can't really get away. And that's the scary part. How do you get away from yourself?
Exactly.
If I were to have to fight me, I'd be terrified because I know who I am. I know what I do, and it's.
So Red warns that Pluto has a temper when Adelaide says that Jason isn't going anywhere. So of course Jason and Pluto are forced to go.
They're told to go play.
So yeah, Red says, "Go play, boys," and then she's just like, "Don't burn the house down. Don't burn our house down."
Our house down
is what she says.
Yes.
So Jason leads Pluto into the little toy closet, and they're doing the little tricks like playing with fire.
Well, Jason's still trying to do the magic trick. Jason's still trying to make that little flint and stone magic trick that he's been working on this whole time, and still not working. And Pluto just lights a match with his fingers, which would mean that the whole time Jason's been playing with this little flint and stone, Pluto has been forced to use matches instead.
And he's been burning himself in the process.
Yeah.
Because we see very shortly he takes off his mask and his entire face is burned. He can't speak because his
mouth is burned shut.
Yeah.
He's burned all the way down his neck, which we can only think that his entire body is covered in burns.
So from this point, there's a lot of jumping back and forth. Like there's scenes where we jump between Red and Adelaide where they're still kind of staring off at one another, and Red is getting directly in her face and just kind of smiling all creepy at her.
Abraham drags Gabe off and is very businesslike, very systematic in how he prepares to kill Gabe. It's almost more like animal slaughter than killing a person the way he goes about this.
And Zora is out on the road, and Umbre runs out in front of her. And she caught up to her and got faster than her. She chases her around a parked car, and of course this guy comes out and he sees Umbre on the top of the car, and he's like, "Get off my car!"
Yeah,
and so she's distracted, so Zora runs off, and we see in the background Umbre is stabbing this guy.
Recently I realized between our last recording and this, that the guy that comes out, he's like, "What are you doing? Get the fuck off my car!" He was one of the reoccurring actors, one of the reoccurring players on Key and Peele.
Oh.
So he was just one of those actors that you would see in a few sketches every now and then on Key and Peele. So which is cool that you still see them coming up in their projects.
So what is this next? Oh, so I think this is Red talking.
During the part with the guy. I have here that Umbre is resembling, with the way she's moving in and out of shadow, or the way she's turning her head. Very reminiscent of early slashers, Halloween, Final Exam, where she's moving almost in a side-to-side motion in and out of the darkness, out of the shadow, and it's very reminiscent of Michael Myers or the killer in Final Exam, who you never really see moving, but somehow the light is either covering them or not.
So then we cut back to Red and Adelaide, and Red is like, "What do we want? We want to take our time. We've been waiting for this day, the untethering," and of course that goes back to that quote said by Gabe at the beach where he says, us Wilsons take our time.
Us Wilsons take our time, yeah.
So Adelaide is pushed face down on the coffee table, and this is a cool shot because the reflection, her face is pushed into the table, but then we see the reflection of red on top of her.
And the glass is cracking.
Mm-hmm.
So we see her reflection in the glass that's not being broken,
right.
and then the glass above her head is the cracked reflection of red.
Also, like, definitely watch the special features on this because the way they filmed this, it was just so intricate and thought out.
He's a genius. It was a double, it was a stunt double playing the red part.
Yeah.
But they did like a face placement where they put Lupita's face on this stunt woman. And it is probably the best CGI ever. You know it's good CGI because you don't know it's there.
And then Jordan Peele would say Red's lines to her, and he would try to mimic the voice that she had for Red.
So good. Like he's excellent at imitation and voices, and i.e. Luther the Anger Translator for Barack Obama, where Jordan Peele is playing Barack Obama, and he just did such a good recreation of his vocal mannerisms, and that I feel like if he hadn't have been able to do that for Lupita in these scenes where she's playing Addie and being able to hear her own Red, some things that we got here may have been lost.
So then we cut to Abraham out on the boat, and
he's in
Gabe
a bag.
is in a garbage bag, and he tears himself out of it, and he grabs the bat, and he sneaks up on Abraham and knocks him in the water. So then Gabe is knocked into the water as well. I think there's something. Is he tied to something?
They're fighting.
Uh-huh.
Abraham just kind of gets frustrated because none of this hurts.
Mm-hmm.
He's supernaturally tough, so none of it hurts. We hear during this before anybody gets up in the water, we hear screams. We hear shrieks from the shoreline, where Abraham turns around and yells back, does like almost a
I think
gorilla
he hears
roar.
Zora.
No, it's I'm pretty sure that it's who we find out later is Tex, which would be Josh's tether.
Oh, uh-huh.
And that's why Abraham responds. He turns around and yells back. That's some sort of it's all very reminiscent of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. This screaming to screaming, which if you've seen the original Invasion, not the original because that's like 1960 something, but the late 70s version with Donald Sutherland, where they added the screaming signal. That's what it reminded me of.
So they're both in the water, and then Abraham is about to sneak up on Gabe, but the boat and the rope pull him away.
He's attached to the life preserver, and the boat stalls, and that's why he falls in the first place. And then it starts up again on its own, and that's why Abraham's being dragged. Is because the boat starts up again, and he's still attached. He's still wrapped up in the life preserver rope.
So we cut back to Jason and Pluto, and Jason finally gets his lighter to work, and this startles Pluto, and so Jason runs out and traps Pluto in the closet. This is the door that always locks from the outside.
This is where I don't make an R. Kelly joke. I'm not going to do it. I'm not. Insert your own R. Kelly joke here. He is trapped in the closet.
So back to Red and Adelaide. They hear the boys, and Red is like, "That's yours." Like they're talking to each other, like mother to mother.
Yeah, like mothers whose children are on a play date. I just said children's.
Children.
If you heard that, just scratch that from your memory.
Or not. Let's keep that going forever.
Awesome.
Adelaide is pushed down and the table cracks. And so, yeah, we see her reflection on the table and it's all cracked.
Yeah. While Red looks for Jason,
Yeah, she finds Pluto in the closet and lets him out. And
they go looking for Jason.
she
Adelaide
finds a rabbit stuffed animal and snips off the head.
Yeah, and Addie's trying to reach for this fire poker,
Mm-hmm.
and she can't reach it. And I wonder if Lupita hurt herself doing this because it looks very uncomfortable. The way she's like pulling on the table, pulling on her arm, trying to get to this fire poker. It's all very uncomfortable looking. We get back to Gabe in the lake.
Boat is coming back around.
Right, so the boat's coming back, and because we have to remember it always veers to the left, so it just went in a giant circle, and it's coming directly at him. You're like, after all that, really? Like, that sucks. And then it stalls out right in front of him again.
Yep, so he climbs back on, and Abraham is still in the water, but we see his head pop out of the water. And you go ahead because you're the one that noticed.
Because I had my phone up with YouTube in the scene, and then I paused the movie at the same time so that she could see how purposefully similar this was.
Mm-hmm.
He comes out of the water, just the top half of his body. He puts his right arm up, and he throws it over Gabe's right shoulder in the exact same way and motion that it happens at the end of the first Friday the 13th. So the first time we ever see Jason Voorhees in the first Friday the 13th, he's a little boy. What's the character's name? Was that Shelley? No, Shelley was a dude. It was
Alice.
She's sitting in a boat. It's all over with. She killed Pamela Voorhees. Oh yeah, spoiler alert. It's a 40-year-old movie. Get over it. She killed Pamela. And this little deformed boy, who we can only assume is Jason, pops out of the water, puts his right arm up, and puts it over her right shoulder, and the movie freezes, and that's where we cut to black. That's the end.
This also happens at the end of part 3 as well.
Yeah, but that's not real. She's imagining. Anyway, part 3, the second best music in the whole series. But Abraham pops up, top half of his body, right arm up, over Gabe's right shoulder, and he tries to pull him back in the exact same motion, and there's no way that's not a coincidence. There's no way that happened because this is how it was written. No. Somebody somewhere knew what they were doing, and I can only assume it was Jordan Peele. Because he is such a big fan of horror movies. He cites Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees for being integral in the making of this film. So there's no way that was a coincidence.
So, Abraham is getting close to stabbing Gabe through the eye with the pair of scissors.
But Gabe, this whole time, is hitting the side of the boat motor to try to get it to start again.
But then he remembers Red's monologue about, this happened while this was happening to so-and-so. So he bashes his own head into the engine.
Yeah.
And this causes Abraham to fall back into the water.
And this is where the engine starts.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a little ground Abraham. This sound effect, this Foley effect of Abraham getting caught in the boat motor is disgusting. You hear this dude getting chopped up, and it's pretty gross. Gabe picks up everybody. Oh, you still got the thing.
Adelaide frees herself, and she's looking for Jason, and she finds Jason and Zora, and then Gabe sees them from out on the water, and he's calling out to them. So they all get on the boat, and then we see Red and Pluto watching them, like they're on the dock, and then Zora joins them in the distance. So they run over to, or no, they haven't gotten there yet. We cut to Josh and Kitty's house.
Yeah, and this is an awesome, like, just the way this whole scene is shot and lit. You don't expect horror movie scenes to be lit so brightly. It's this super modern, bi-level balconied house, and oh man, Tim Heidecker's character Josh.
Josh, yeah.
He's just laying
He's
in this.
passed out downstairs.
He's passed out, still holding a glass of liquor.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's still holding bourbon in his hand.
And the lights start flickering, so Kitty comes out and tells him to investigate, and they're kind of just
He just
quarreling back and forth. Yeah.
He's just so. I don't think I'm gonna do that.
And so the camera is looking up at her because she's peering over from the balcony, and the camera is like looking up at her, and it's kind of symbolizing that she's the one who's in charge here,
yes.
or at least she tries to be at all times. So then we get an overhead shot with the camera looking down on Josh, which could be like her always looking down on him as well.
Oh yeah.
And they have like a Bluetooth system.
Similar to Alexa.
Yeah, except theirs is named Ophelia.
Yeah, it was just him. It was just him trying to use that sort of system
mm-hmm.
without having to pay for rights.
Mm-hmm. So he's like, "It's our last night here. Let's have a little party." And then the twins come out.
Well, the line of, "Well, would you at least go look outside?" And he looks out the door and he's like, "Oh my God."
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's O.J. Simpson. He's outside, and it's a very Tim Heidecker.
So
joke.
yeah, they're kind of like fighting, and it wakes the twins up, and then this just happens so suddenly. The twins are up on the balcony, and then their
tethered
doppelgangers come out and kill them very quickly.
Just stabs to the neck. Tara doesn't like neck stuff. No, she's not a fan of slit
But
throats.
in this movie, it was just so exaggerated. It didn't even look real, like the gushing and stuff. And then plus, we see it more from a distance. We're watching it from the outside of the house.
You don't think if a giant pair of scissors went into a jugular vein that it would squirt out like that?
I mean, it
We're not
looked
talking,
more
okay,
like computerized.
if you haven't seen the movie, we're not talking like Kurosawa gushing. We're not talking about like anime gushing blood here. We're talking one big squirt coming out of a main jugular vein, which would probably be completely real.
I mean, it was just, this wasn't even Tenebrae level spraying.
Wow, you're digging the deep cuts.
No pun intended.
Oh no, definitely pun intended.
So yeah,
the twins come out. They kill the twins. These twins, the tethered.
Yeah, so we're
tethered,
seeing that it's not just the Wilson family that has tethers.
Which took me by so much surprise.
I was not expecting it to go this route. I thought it was just going to be about
the family,
the single family.
Yes.
Yeah.
These tethers' names are Lo and Nix. I actually wrote down all the names of all the tethers. They're completely inconsequential. They're just more tethered, but still, I like to give names. The first time we saw this in the theater, we saw it at our event where we brought people with us and we rented out the theater. When these tethered came out, I was shocked because if you just watched or if you just saw promo posters and things up to this point, because we avoided trailers, when you saw this for the first time in the theater, you were actually legitimately surprised because you didn't know that you thought it was just going to be the Wilson family chased by these whatever they are, and there's more. And that's when it starts to dawn on you that it is so much bigger.
So yeah, and as this family is being killed, Ophelia is playing a song by the Beach Boys.
Good Vibrations.
Mm-hmm.
It's playing Good Vibrations. And it's reminiscent of Singing in the Rain in
A Clockwork
Orange, where it takes a completely innocent, happy song and turns it into something very dark.
Like associating it with a violent act.
Yes.
So Kitty is the only one that's left alive. She's still writhing around on the floor, crawling toward Josh's body.
Their tethered are named Tex and Dahlia.
So Tex is extending his hand to her, and just as she's about to grab it, he does the classic, like, pull his hand away and slick his hair back.
Yeah, which I believe is just him trying to act like Josh. He doesn't know anything other than being a dick because Josh is a dick. So, but it's fun for him. Dahlia, so named for a reason that we'll talk about a little later. But Tex, because he's the cool guy. The name Tex kind of implies that he's the cool guy. And Dahlia's, we'll actually talk about the reason for her name a little later.
So,
you get
the Tex and Dahlia tethered couple, imagine if, Gabe and Adelaide met and fell in love, and then Red and Abraham met, and maybe they didn't fall in love, but they still
were forced to.
They acted respectful.
Yes.
So imagine Kitty and Josh meeting and then having that, like, disdain for one another, and then they're tethered. Like, it must have been even worse than that.
Yeah, it must have been like the worst. These tethered, we can only assume would either absolutely love each other or hate each other's absolute presence. Like, they might love each other because that might happen, but more likely because Josh and Kitty have this ugly relationship, they probably hate each other even more. You get this feeling that the tethered here are more of a family unit, though.
Yeah.
Than Josh and Kitty's family, at least. Dahlia almost looking to Tex, like the body language she gives. There's a lot of submissiveness. There's a lot of looking to him for approval. Like, after she kills Kitty, you see her kind of like perk up and look at him like, did I do a good job? The daughters are completely subordinate. After they kill the non-tethered twins, they stand there with their hands in front of them and they're just looking down at their parents waiting.
But did we talk about how Kitty is still alive and she's trying to tell Ophelia to call the police?
To call the police. Call the police is what she says. But she has blood coming out of her mouth. So Ophelia says, playing Fuck the Police. And it plays NWA's Fuck the Police.
So the family shows up to the house and Tex greets Adelaide at the door.
To which she sticks the fire poker directly in his forehead.
But she is dragged into the house by Dahlia. So then Zora and Jason run off while Gabe distracts Tex, and they go back into the house to help Adelaide. And Zora grabs a golf club, and they find the dead bodies, and then they hear Adelaide screaming upstairs.
Which, during this Tex chasing Gabe, or like following Gabe.
Which they just go right back out onto a boat,
like onto
right?
the docks.
Yeah.
I wrote down here that Tex is mimicking how Josh would have been cocky, but it's like a child's version of what you would think that is. So he's being that cocky, I'm the cool guy, but it's how you'd think a little kid would do it. If you took a 7, 8-year-old boy and told him to act over the top what a cool guy would be doing, that's what Tim Heidecker's doing here as Tex being the cool guy. Zola grabs a golf club.
Yep.
And this is where we get badass Zola.
Hmm.
You have all this?
So we can see that the tethered twins, they're cartwheeling around upstairs, and Zora hits one with the club and she knocks her over the railing.
Uh-huh.
Then Zora and Jason turn the corner, and in the back, if you look closely, you see that 2 legs are in the air.
It's not something that the human eye would pick up until it starts moving.
But, yeah, so they're, walking very slowly, trying to be sneaky, and you see a pair of legs
Jason
in the air.
We missed it. Jason picked up, like, a half quartz, like a half quartz stone, and it's connected to a stand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're walking down this hallway looking for this other tethered, and she was handstanding behind them the whole time. And you don't even see it. It's right in front of you, and you don't even see it.
Yeah. So she just pops up, and then Zora starts hitting her repeatedly with the club. Yeah. And then so Adelaide is tied up in this bedroom, and Dahlia is at the vanity in the room just looking at her own reflection.
Playing with makeup.
And there's scars on her face.
There's scars all over her face, especially, we heard Kitty say earlier, that she got her cheeks done. Well, we see these scars under where her cheekbones would be, starting at about the corners of her mouth, and Jordan, being who he is obviously a reference to the Black Dahlia murder, where the young lady who was cut in half also had the ends of her mouth cut out into her cheeks. So the name Dahlia would come from those scars, which would, if you haven't picked up by now, would be from Kitty getting her plastic surgeries. But that's not what would have happened to Dahlia. They would have just cut her face open.
Right. But yeah, it's a creepy shot. It's just a close-up of Elizabeth Moss, and she's doing makeup and smiling at herself in the mirror.
It's a very distorted visage of what someone who is actually happy would look like.
So we go back to Gabe and Tex on the boat.
Yes.
Well, Gabe falls onto the boat.
The name of the boat. This is Josh's boat. And it's a yacht. And it's called the Biatch. I love that so much.
So then, Dahlia then goes over to Adelaide, and she's holding the scissors up to her face, and she suddenly grimaces and then looks like she's going to cut her, and then is she like sniffing her too, kind of?
Well, I think it's more of just an animalistic movement.
Yeah, and then she holds back.
She doesn't hurt her. And there's a reason why that I don't think we've gotten into, and I believe it's because, yes, the tethered can kill anyone, but I feel like there's this unspoken rule within themselves, Jordan, if you're listening, let me know if I'm right, that it's frowned upon to kill someone else's non-tethered. You want to help the other tethered kill who they are tethered to. And it's almost taking something away from them if you kill someone else's tethered. So she knows that Red is still out there. So she goes to cut her, and then she realizes that this is something Red has to do. So she stops.
But then she goes back to the mirror and she proceeds to cut her own face.
To cut herself, yes. Because that's what she thinks pretty is.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, she believes that pretty comes from, that beauty comes from cutting her own face.
We go back to the boat.
Yeah, Tex makes it look like he doesn't know where Gabe is, and he's like doing almost this like whistling, looking around, even though you know as the audience he knows full well where Gabe is. He's just trying to trick Gabe, and again it looks like a little kid pretending he doesn't know where somebody's hiding. He hops down into the cabin of the boat, the sleeping quarters, and Gabe is laying there with the flare gun that they talked about on the beach. And he's aiming it right at the doorway, and he pulls the trigger and completely misses. And they both watch the flare bounce off the wall of the boat. And they look at the flare, and they look at each other like neither of them can believe he missed.
Mm-hmm.
He's only probably 5 feet away.
Less than.
Yeah. And then the camera cuts out. We see the exterior of the boat again.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we see that there's a struggle on the boat. It's moving, but we don't actually see the fight between Tex and Gabe.
But Dahlia hears it.
Well, she
She
looks
hears
out the
the
window.
men struggling, and then she goes to the window, and at first she's like screaming, but then she starts laughing.
Yes, which it almost looks like the sad face she puts on is almost like, oh my god, like it's sarcastic. Oh no, not Tex. And then she realizes, she kind of sees that Tex is losing, and she starts laughing. She doesn't care about Tex, so it's like, oh no, not Tex, and then she laughs at herself. It's just my interpretation. Again, Jordan, let us know.
So Zora is sneaking into the room, but Dahlia is looking out the window, so she sees the reflection of Zora.
This turning around.
Trying to sneak up.
Yeah, this turning around that Elizabeth Moss does is really crazy looking because it's so fast. You can tell that it's a planned act by Dahlia, the character, not the actress. But it's such a fast, like, turning around and grabbing Zora by the throat motion that it is scary. It almost looks supernatural. What we don't, what she doesn't anticipate though is Jason with that quartz on the stand.
Yeah, because so she grabs Zora and then pins her to the bed and is about to stab her.
And Jason beats the shit out of, and at this point, that's one of the ones where you see Jason killing Dahlia with this quartz stand, and you're like, no, because he is just this innocent character. He's just this little boy who has just been a little boy. He's done nothing a little boy wouldn't do. He's had no sinister qualities. He hasn't been angry at anybody, and he does this, and it's almost like a painful thing to watch.
It is, yeah.
We get the I got 5 on it.
It starts playing
here again. The violins of it and
the violins.
You're making fun of the way I talk.
Yes.
All of what we do is me talking. You know that, right?
What?
The show. It's just me talk. It's just us talking.
Yes.
And you're gonna make fun of I see what happens here.
Yes.
I'll keep an ear out. They try to call the police again, and all operators are busy.
Well, yeah, Gabe returns to the house and he's like, I'm done with boats. And yeah, they're sitting around trying to watch or call the police, and
they're sitting in the living room.
Yeah, Jason's like, how many of everybody is there gonna be? So
that's when it dawns on them.
Yeah, they turn around and they see the TV, so they start watching the news.
Yeah, all operators are which the whole time they're all sitting in the living room of Josh and Kitty's house. And during the fight with Zorro, one of the twins had gone off the balcony and through this like glass coffee table.
Yeah.
And the whole time they're sitting here having this normal conversation, and the body of this tethered is just wrapped around the metal frame, what's left of this table, and it's in the foreground of the shot.
Yep.
They're talking over this tethered's body. It's kind of funny.
The news is discussing the attacks and talking about people with scissors stabbing people. Someone said they were coming from the sewers.
I.e. Chud. Which, if you haven't seen Chud, don't worry about it. You're not missing that much. But it's still a fun movie. It's fun, and he directly references it. It is a verbatim line taken from Chud. Who are they? I don't know, but they came from the sewers.
So there is footage of an attack being played on TV, and in the background you see people standing in lines holding hands, and the journalists are describing the people as being demonstrators, putting on demonstrations, like these violent demonstrations.
Which actually is a pretty accurate description when you think about what the demonstration is. There's a suggestion in this conversation of running to another country. I think they suggest going to Mexico. Mm-hmm. Because as we find out during this news broadcast, this is only an American problem. Mm-hmm. This problem is only happening in America. And we could stay, there's the suggestion of we could stay here.
But then Adelaide's like, they think like us, they know where we are.
Well, no, we could booby trap the house, is what I was getting towards.
Mm-hmm. And then they mentioned the Goonies, or Home Alone, right? Yeah.
We could stay here, we could booby trap the house, and Gabe actually looks over and says, "Tell me you did not just reference Home Alone."
And the kids are like,
What's Home Alone?
So yeah, then Adelaide. This is where Adelaide takes charge. The next
thing you're going to tell me is you don't know what micro machines are. And the kids are like, "What are micro machines?"
So this is where Adelaide takes charge, and she tells Gabe, "You don't get to make the decisions anymore."
Right.
And then we see them running outside
to the car.
But they forget the keys, so Adelaide runs back in, and
in the background, while she's looking for these keys, is the same area we saw them sitting in, the living room area, and something ain't the same.
The twin who had been laying there, who we thought
was dead at the table,
been dead, is now gone. Start noticing.
She doesn't see it.
No. We also started noticing in this scene too, Adelaide's movements are a lot more feral. She's not as graceful.
Yes.
It's like she's more natural now, and she's
Well, it's a very animalistic movement.
Mm-hmm. And her hands are still tied as well.
Yeah, her hands are still tied. She's looking for these keys in the kitchen. The twin in the table is gone. Mm-hmm.
So she's walking over to the table, but then it's like she senses.
We see her head just pop up.
Yeah, but it's like Adelaide senses that she's right behind her. So
which is kind of what we saw. Which is kind of what we saw Kitty do earlier.
Right.
Where they have this sense of someone else close, and
But also, Kitty had been looking out the window, so she might have seen the reflection.
Right.
So Jason walks in just in time to see Adelaide killing the other twin, and sees her like just shrieking and being violent. And this is where I knew for sure that Adelaide was not who we thought she was the whole time.
I feel like Jordan gives this to us when he does, because it makes it harder to watch the rest of the movie. Mm-hmm. Smart, intelligent viewers at this point will have had some questions about Adelaide, and at this point, your questions are almost being confirmed, and I feel like he did that so that the rest of the film, you either question what you thought was going on, or you question who she is as a character. Like, instead of you thinking at this point you got the movie figured out, it gives you more questions that have to be answered.
And it just gives you this feeling like, wow, no matter what, this isn't really going to be like a happy ending.
Yeah, there's no way that this is going to end in a way where you're going to leave the theater like, oh, that was great.
Mm-hmm.
No, you got no chance. They get into the car, the doors unlock, they get into the car, and this is where we get just Jordan Peele giving us the comedic side of it. We get the kill count argument, where Addie is still outside of the car. She's looking through the driver's window. Zora is in the driver's seat. Gabe is in the passenger seat, and I believe Jason's in the back seat.
Yes.
It started out with, get out of the car, I'm driving. And Zora's like, no, I want to drive. And it starts out with that mother-daughter argument, oh, but I want to drive this time. And Zora busts out with, yeah, but I have the highest kill count. And they start having this conversation like it is a completely legitimate conversation for a family to be having of who's killed the most tethered.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember how it all goes down. Okay.
Yeah, so Gabe can't drive because his leg is messed up.
Right.
And Adelaide also can't drive because her hands are still tied, so yeah, no matter what.
Zora was good. But the argument continues regardless. Zora says she's killed the most. Jason says, well, I know I only have one. Gabe says, I have two. Zora says, I'm pretty sure I have the most because I have 5.
Mm-hmm.
Addie says, no, you have 4. And she goes, no, I have 5. I just killed one that you thought you did in the house. She wasn't dead.
Mm.
So get out of the car. And she's still outside of the car, and that's where we see Ombre in the middle of the road.
Oh yeah, up ahead.
In the middle of the road, shadow, very old school slasher-like, and actually, like I said before, this is going to have to be a 3-part episode. Maybe more, because we're going to have to cut off part 2 right here. Part 2B. Part B.
Yes.
The second part. Do. Thank you for listening. Hopefully we can get in soon again and do the however many parts are left. There's still so much to go over.
I think we'll get it done in one more episode.
Okay, we might get done in one more episode. Please, if you like this episode, review, like, comment, share. What else can they do with our... Subscribe.
If you listen to this episode, then go back and rewatch the movie, see if you feel any differently about it or notice anything different on your own, and then let us know things that you have noticed, and we can keep the conversation going.
Okay, if you're looking at our YouTube channel, it says subscribe, and then right next to it, there's this little bell.
Yeah, you have to click the bell.
You have to click the little bell. That way when we upload something, it tells you, hey, those two just put up a new episode, and you're going to have something to listen to on your morning commute or whatever. I've had a couple people tell me that they love listening to us driving.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's when I listen to most of the podcasts that I listen to.
Yes, I listen to mainly only podcasts while I'm driving. It's a fun alternative to songs I've heard a million times.
Right.
So, what else? Write reviews, comment, share. What else can they do? They scream at the studio window. They can do that if they want. If you know where the studio is, just
give us other movie suggestions.
Oh,
if you want to come be on an episode.
If you have an idea for a movie that applies to you as a person, so like if you're a fan of wrestling,
we want to branch out a little more too. We want to start doing like live videos. So if there are things you want to hear or see us talk about, or if you want to come on and be with
yes,
us.
I feel like pretty soon here we're going to figure out how to do like an AMA. Well, not AMA about movies. You just looked at me fun. Ask me anything. About movies. Ask us anything about movies. Let's be specific. But yeah, I feel like we're gonna be able to figure out how to do that soon. I was gonna call out another local podcast because they're ignoring me.
Who?
I was gonna call out the Maddie Nice and Maddie Ice.
The Maddie Nice.
I screwed that up. The Maddie Ice and Marky Mark podcast, because I have suggested multiple times that we could do a crossover episode where the four of us talked about the Mickey Rourke film The Wrestler, which is excellent.
Oh yeah.
Nominated film. Because Mark, who is a friend of mine outside of the podcast world, and they have an excellent show, so look them up also. If you're listening to us, look them up also. They are hilarious guys. They've got a great show. They're doing a lot more with their show than us.
I know. I mean, hopefully we'll get there at some
hopefully
point.
we'll get the whole shirt thing figured out. Maybe some streaming,
merchandise.
right? Streaming ability. We want to do the AMA
Get some
thing.
better equipment.
Yeah, a mixer someday. But
if you want to come on and talk about dogs or pets, we're open to that as well. We love dogs.
If you want to come on and talk about dogs and pets, what movie are we gonna do? Cujo?
Or people could bring their pets and we'll just have.
Okay, if you want to bring your pets over, we're not necessarily gonna do it. Just bring your pets over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you guys can all record together, and I'll be in the corner just
with
petting
the
dogs.
Yeah. But I don't know if you can hear. Let me see if I can get. I can't get it.
I don't know if it's gonna pick it up.
I tried to move my mic this entire time we've been recording. Elvis has just been snoring loudly. Snoring very loudly.
We're about to go to a birthday party, so he's gonna have a long day.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Wow, I should have finished that sentence the first time. We'll get part 3 out as soon as we can. Have a good day.
Think pink.
Adopt, don't shop.